What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster here with an update video on this Thursday evening, January 27th, 2022 is the date. 6:36 p.m. out here in the West Coast, California area. Latest quake on the globe is a 2.5 earthquake right around the Puerto Rico area. Seen a pretty good swarm of movement throughout the Puerto Rico area, the South America region, and the North American plate over the last 12 hours. So let's go ahead and check out the latest information here on the USGS map, showing the activity here on the map. You can see quite a bit of activity kicking up here along the west coast from Northern California down south through the eastern part of the Sierra Nevadas. But first, let's go ahead and check out the activity here around the Puerto Rico region. Looks like quite a bit of movement here kicking up on the southwestern part. Also one right smack dab here in the center part here of Puerto Rico, 3.2 at 22 kilometers. So a little bit of activity ramping up in this region. The Haiti area has seen a little bit of movement as well, 4.5. Also some earthquakes under the 4.0 threshold there that the USGS not reporting, but definitely showing up on the EMSC models, which we'll look at here in a little bit. Looking at the states here, this is a pretty broad view of earthquake activity, and a lot of escalating activity along the west coast specifically. But we did have a trail of movement down from Ohio through the New Madrid zone into parts of Oklahoma and Texas. So you can almost draw a line right there. Also over here, right around New York, seeing a little bit of earthquake activity. It's actually in Connecticut. They're 1.4 at 5 kilometers below surface. Just not a whole lot of movement up there, right? You don't normally see that. South Carolina, 2.1 in the same area that we've seen some swarming kickoff here over, actually it's been pretty quiet over the last week, but we can go back prior to that. You can see the movement here on the map, roughly within that same location. The orange circle, of course, the most recent quake today, but prior to that, in the weeks past, we definitely seen some activity ramping up there in that area of South Carolina. Let's go back here to the all magnitudes and work our way. I want to show you guys this Ohio earthquake. Now this is over the last 24 hours here. Seen two earthquakes, a 2.1 and a 2.5 in the area of, let's see where this is at, East Lake, kind of out there in the waters there of Lake Erie. 5.0 and 6.9 kilometers for the depth of those earthquakes. And this area has seen a little bit of swarming as well, or at least a couple earthquakes within the past few weeks. Let's go ahead and bring that back here to the 30 days, all magnitudes here, roughly within the same vicinity as these two prior quakes. We did see a 2.8 and a 1.9 within the same vicinity a couple weeks ago. So a little bit of return movement here to the North American plate in these areas that have seen earthquake activity here earlier this year. South Carolina, Ohio. This one over here is just kind of an oddball quake there outside of Connecticut. New Madrid zone. Seen a 2.0 near the Marston, Missouri area. And some Oklahoma activity kicking up, stretching down through Texas. Nothing significant down here like we could see. Pecos, Texas area gets quite a bit of movement here. We'll bring up the 30 days, all magnitudes, and no doubt you can call Texas earthquake country. Within this area of Texas, 159 earthquakes within the last 30 days of all magnitudes. Quite a bit of activity today. Only about two earthquakes within the vicinity of the Pecos, Texas area, and up here outside of Midland, Big Spring region, seeing that 2.9 earthquake. Along the west coast here, things kind of ramping up in a big way. Not only are we seeing increase in activity up here in the north, but also down throughout the eastern part of the Sierra Nevada. Quite a bit of movement, and specifically across the Garlock fault structure, just north of there, seeing a trail of movement across the Willer Ridge and areas to the east here. I'm still kind of watching this region here pretty closely. The Garlock fault structure, a different type of setup here when it comes to the fault systems. Accumulation rate of at least 5 mm a year, probably greater than that and we just haven't seen any significant earthquake activity movement on this structure here, which I can only assume is definitely very capable of producing a sizable earthquake, and I'm sure getting ready to. It's just been it's all too long since we've seen anything significant here on this specific fault structure. Let's get in on the activity up here to the north first. The Cascadia subduction zone getting in on some activity today. A little swarming of activity outside of Ferndale, which sits up here just a few miles. This is some subduction zone earthquake activity. It looks like it may be on the surface here at the map, but you got to go down about 16 to 18, even 23 kilometers for one of those earthquakes into the southern end of the Cascadia megathrust area. And this area has been, we've been watching this pretty closely here. Been seeing a lot of movement here at the southern end in a deep area of the Cascadia. Let me see if this is going to show some of it. Show some of it here. Not all of it. We did have some activity back in December as well. But there's definitely been a swarm of movement here that's kicked up. And a lot of this activity, folks, has not been reported from the USGS here. This is just what they've been reporting. I've been watching the live seismograph stations now for weeks and trying to verify the activity that I see on the seismographs here with the activity that they're putting out. And it's only about one earthquake for every 10 that I see on the live seismographs there at the Petrolia stations, or Petrolia seismograph stations, and they're pretty well distinct. I brought up another localized seismograph within the area to verify that these are indeed earthquakes, and no doubt I see them, but they're not being reported. Earthquake activity around the Gorda Ridges over here, way off here on the Gorda Plate, 2.8 earlier, just actually a couple hours ago, 10 kilometers for that earthquake. So quite a bit of regional pressure here along the western part of the North American Plate and the eastern part of the Pacific Plate. So this boundary right here need to pay close attention up and down the board. We've seen some further movement into the southern area, the San Joaquin Valley, way down here along the Wheeler Ridge. It's a fault system right here capable of producing an earthquake between 6.1 and yeah, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a 7.0 within this area. I was looking at this on the hold on a second here. Let me see if I can find that Wheeler fault right here. The Caltech website. There we go. Couldn't think of it. So this site right here, the Southern California Earthquake Data Center. I just had a weird brain pause there for a minute. Could be some after effects of the virus I had here a couple days ago. But anyway, the Wheeler Ridge fault here. That's this activity kicking up around the Bakersfield area. This fault system here. Only about 30 kilometers long, not a significant one, but the probable magnitudes here, according to these folks, 6.0 to 7.1. South dipping thrust fault is associated with a complex series of folds and scarps to the west of the town of Wheeler Ridge and Interstate 5. It may connect at a depth with the Palito fault, thrust fault, so that would make it even more dangerous if it's actually connected at a depth with a local nearby fault system. So 7.1 at least for this region. But today, only a handful of earthquakes within this region, 3.5, and a couple other 2s swarming up there around the Wheeler Ridge. So kind of watching this area pretty closely as we're seeing just regionally a increase in pressure up and down the entire North American Plate here along the west coast. Areas to the east here, a little bit of separate swarming near Lake Isabella, a couple small microquakes within that region, and also Ridgecrest area. Seeing some increase in activity as well up here around the Coso volcanic range in the Owens Valley area, 1.6 kicking up within the last hour. But overall, in the eastern part of Sierra Nevada, as you can see, a swarm of movement through Long Valley and up through the Antelope Valley area, and movement outside of Lake Tahoe. Of course, if you remember, we did have a little bit of swarming activity last year, right directly underneath the center of the lake. We're not seeing that today, but a little bit of activity around the North Shore and areas to the north of Truckee and outside of Reno, all seeing some pretty noticeable earthquake activity, right? When you look at the map here, that's quite a bit of movement kicking up here in this region of the state of California. Nevada as well, working its way kind of inland towards the Tonopah area. There's a little earthquake outside of What do we got there? Madeira, Chowchilla, a 1.9. This is pretty deep movement here, 20.4 kilometers. I'm kind of curious to see if this has been reviewed or not. It has been reviewed. It's a little odd there to see that deep of an earthquake in this area. So something brewing out here along the west coast, man. I kind of got an eerie feeling about all this weird activity inland into the interior part of California. Something under quite a bit of pressure out here along the west coast, whether it's a main plate boundary as the San Andreas Fault, or if it's up here to the north. I think we should be on guard here, watching all this activity kick up like this. Into the tremor. Let's go ahead and check out the tremor department here real quick in the Cascadia subduction zone. There's 26 epicenters of tremor. Here's the number 26. Here's the M energy release. Kind of like a slow-moving earthquake, if you will, more or less like a vibrational movement between the plates. Nothing jolting loose. That would obviously be an earthquake, but these are just kind of tremors, if you will. Slippage, down dip of the Cascadia. So a little bit of activity here in southern coast range of Oregon, underneath the Medford area. Of course, once again, down dip of the Cascadia. That could be contributing to a little bit of the earthquake activity that we're seeing in Northern California today. Nothing going on off the coast of Oregon for now, but don't forget that baby sleeps right up there. The Cascadia megathrust extends from Northern Cal all the way up here past the Vancouver Island, the Queen Charlotte Sound area. One day this place will be not a good place to be if this thing blows, or if it pops, I should say. I don't believe it's going to be a super volcano, but it's going to be a mega quake and a subsequent large tsunami, which will not be good. That's not fear-mongering. That is just simple facts there, folks. That's for sure. Let's see. The San Andreas Fault around the Bay Area looks pretty quiet. Nothing kicking up here. I don't see any movement. A little bit of activity along the Calaveras Fault Zone. Some microquakes. But overall, fairly quiet along the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault as well. Down here in the Gulf of California, pretty quiet. Middle America Trench looks pretty quiet as well, except for a Costa Rica earthquake down here, 4.3. The EMSC, though, shows some further movement in this region. We'll verify that after we get done looking at the USGS map. Kind of want to go over that over this area first. We did have a 5.5 kick up in the Chile area within the last hour or so, last couple hours there. 92.5 kilometers into the Peru-Chile Trench. And some activity kicking up out here in the big island of Hawaii once again, with some increased activity around Mauna Loa. With let's look at this earthquake activity right here. Pretty shallow movement. They got the negative kilometers here kicking up, so that means very localized surface quakes going on there at Hawaii. Could see that baby start to stir up right now, just kind of mellow. Nothing really changing there on the big island when it comes to volcanic statuses. Southeast flank looking somewhat active, and Kilauea, not a whole lot of seismic activity kicking up there. The rest of the Hawaiian chain looks pretty quiet for now, and some further movement down here around the Hunga Tonga Volcano. Had a 4.9 kick up just to the south, just to the very south of the Hunga Tonga Volcano, just about 3 miles or so to the south. Pretty shallow earthquake, of course. You folks remember the large eruption that occurred here in this region just a couple weeks, or a week or so ago, week and a half, 2 weeks. Seems like it's been 2 weeks now. That's a lot of activity kicking up. There's that 5.8 volcanic eruption right smack dab in between these two islands, which used to show on the satellite imagery the volcano kind of protruding from the ocean floor. Now it's now it looks like this, with nothing in the middle. The Hunga Tonga volcano eruption, pretty powerful eruption. And all this seismic activity around here leads me to believe that this is not over by a long shot. Continued activity within this region with that 4.9. Up here to the north, a very shallow 6.2 that struck. This was early this morning, I believe. Looks like earlier this morning in the Tonga region, but quite a bit of activity taking place down here. We need to watch these volcanoes pretty closely. The Papua New Guinea area, 4.6 at 141 kilometers for that earthquake in the depth there, and also some further movement throughout the Indonesia area to the west, Japan did see an earthquake actually within the last hour or so, 4.5 at 66.6 kilometers. That can't be good with that number. This is this area here that we're watching pretty closely. We keep mentioning it because it's building up. I mean, it's been quiet for all too long. And it's, of course, we had that 9-pointer back in 2011 here. But other areas of the trench northward and the subsequent accumulated rate here in this area is great. But the release and the buildup of, or the earthquake activity that's taken place here is just, it doesn't match up with the with what we should be seeing. So I believe something's building up here pretty significantly. And we'll probably see that soon enough. The Aleutian Trench, some further activity around the Davydoff volcano up here where the alert level kind of got raised last month from extinct to to active, yellow, and advisory. Continued activity today over the last 24 hours, 3.2 and a 2.5 around the Davydoff volcano right there. The Aleutian Trench, eastward we go, a little bit of movement up and down the board along the subduction zone here of the Pacific and the North American plate, 110 kilometer deep, 2.5 way up here north of the Cook Inlet area. Pretty deep earthquake. The rest of the area, let's go ahead and bring the all magnitudes in so we can see the typical earthquake activity in this major plate boundary. What else we got here? Middle East looking pretty quiet. Mediterranean Sea quiet as well. We did have one earthquake off the coast of Spain, a 3.9 occurring earlier today, and also up here around the Greenland area, a 4.6 at the southern tip. It looks like 10 kilometers below the surface for that earthquake. Let's check out the EMSC real quick and verify earthquake activity that we're seeing here on the USGS map. Then we'll check out some volcanic activity. Of course, here on the 4.0 threshold map, things look about the same, right? Up and down the board. But we will shoot over here to the North American plate where we can see a little bit of earthquake activity on the 3.0 threshold and some other smaller quakes up and down the board. Middle America Trench still showing quite a bit of earthquake activity in the 3 range up and down the board off the coast of Mexico and the Guatemala area. Looking at the South America region, has been pretty active as well. Pretty much the same amount of earthquake activity that we've been seeing over the past couple nights. Kind of up and down the board there. You can see 3.0 within the last hour. Looks like right in the Peru-Chile Trench. So activity still continues there. There's the Haiti earthquake activity up there, 3.9, and some further quakes within that region. Volcanic activity, there has been a couple new additions here. We haven't checked this in a while. This is put out the week of 19 January 25th. What? Okay. 3 new ones here. We got the Wolf, the Hunga Tonga, of course, which had occurred a week and a half ago or so now, and the one in the Vanuatu area. Ambrin, is that right? Hopefully I pronounced that correctly there. This was put out on the 25th. Looks like a little bit of a new activity, unrest occurring there at that volcano in the Vanuatu area. Nothing significant at the moment. Looks like some ash plume and steam and gas kicking up in the area. Stay 500 meters away from ground cracks created by the 2018 eruption. Yeah, so a little bit of activity being added here on the chart. Some newer ones. The Wolf volcano, Isabela, Ecuador area, showing a little bit of activity as well. But the Hunga Tonga, if you guys are kind of curious about that, no additional eruptive events were detected at the Hunga Tonga area. Let's see here. But we're still watching it, folks. With all the activity kind of kicking up here, it's something to watch pretty closely. We just had, let me look here. There's that 4.5, but there was definitely another earthquake pop in here. I seen it there on my phone. I believe that was that 3.9 in the Haiti area that kicked up. We'll go back here and double check this. I kind of want to see what this earthquake was over here around the Haiti area. Kind of watching that pretty closely in that region. I believe, yep, that's that 3.9. And of course some smaller earthquakes there around the region that the USGS not showing. But overall, folks, definitely a lot of movement kicking up here along the North American plate for sure. Let's go ahead and check out the, kind of got sidetracked there for a second, Yellowstone activity kicking up here in the northwest corner of the park. We are seeing a little bit of heightened earthquake activity here. Nothing significant at the moment, but some definite movement. Looks like it's showing up here in the Maple Creek area. Most of the activity occurring earlier. You can see all this activity here ramping up locally at the seismograph stations. A distant larger earthquake right there. Not for sure which one that is. Let's see what else we got. But yeah, definitely some earthquake activity ramping up there at Yellowstone National Park. Again, nothing significant, and I'm not even for certain if the USGS is showing the earthquake activity up there. Go ahead here to the all magnitudes. Now, a little bit of movement, right? A little bit showing up here on the map. Even a 2.3 way out here in the Wyoming country. A couple twos and some ones kicking up, showing up here on the map. But overall, it's just a little bit of the bigger picture taking place out here along the North American plate. Things just kind of cooking out here, it looks like, for sure. Up in the Pacific Northwest, Mount Rainier and the Mount St. Helens area all had a little bit of microquake activity. Mount St. Helens, it's got, if you want to zoom in, it's 3 earthquakes here, right smack dab at the crater of the volcano there at Mount St. Helens. Go ahead and check out the volcanic seismicity activity map here on the pnsn.org network. Pretty cool site to check out when it comes to monitoring volcanoes in the Pacific Northwest and a whole bunch of other stuff. They got quite a bit of array of info on this page. So Mount St. Helens here. Over the last week, it looks like, last 2 days, some activity kicking up. Last 2 hours shows in the red circles. If you want to get a zoom-in view, just kind of zooming in a little bit there, the volcano. And the majority of the time, these seismograph stations are accessible, and you can see the localized earthquakes there for yourself. Let's see, let's back out of here. Over the last hour or so, I'm not really seeing nothing in that one. There is some on the previous day, it looks like, localized, very localized earthquake activity. Going to show up as a well-defined spike. These up here are going to be S waves from, it looks like, possibly a little bit larger quake. Distant quakes could show up, something like this, a little bit on the broader side, and not as spiky or distinct. Spiky is about the best word I can think of when it comes to trying to describe a localized earthquake. That's kind of what these localized quakes look like. And then that's kind of what we're seeing there on the St. Helens graph. So no volcanic tremor or anything like that being observed. Just a couple small microquakes in the region of Mount St. Helens area. Same up here around the Mount Rainier area. All other volcanoes look pretty quiet throughout the Pacific Northwest for now. Earthquakes Canada, I don't believe anything has changed on here. We checked this out a little bit this morning. Things kind of just a little on the low-key side. It looks like a couple earthquakes here. Has been updated. A little 2.1 off the coast, Gold River, BC area. Kind of out there a little bit. And a purple circle indicating the most recent quake, a 1.8 off the coast of the village of Queen Charlotte, BC area, a 1.8 at 24.5 kilometers. So a little bit of deeper movement off there off the coast of Canada. If you look at the plate boundary here, this plate boundaries, go ahead and pop this up real quick. North American Pacific plate, right? Cascadia subduction zone ends roughly right about here. And of course subducts. So you get all this interaction here with the North American Pacific plate boundary area. And this area I can definitely see some earthquakes. Nothing like the subduction zones here off the coast of the Vancouver Island area southward to Northern Cal. And of course the subductions up here, the Aleutian Trench is a major player in producing some significant size earthquakes. So we'll just keep an eye on things, folks, and see how things go. It's pretty active out here along the west coast. When things light up like this and we see a broad area of earthquake activity stretching out through almost the entire western part of the country, and a lot kicking up here along the center part and the eastern part, it's a good idea to, kind of say, hey, what's going on out here? Well, there's definitely a lot of pressure and an increase in movement going on, and we need to be on guard out there along the west coast, I think. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off here. Have a great night. Stay safe. Live stream is up and running. We will chat at you guys another time. Peace out, everyone.